Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something a little bit different, a bit more focused.
Yeah.
Usually we cast a pretty wide net on a big topic, but today we are running a custom analysis, a dedicated deep dive for one of our listeners, a gentleman named Elton.
I love these. I really do. It forces us to take all this abstract data and ground it in a real person's life. We aren't just talking about, patients in a textbook. We're talking about Elton.
Exactly. So let's lay out the file on the desk, so to speak. Elton, you're 71 years old. You're a stroke survivor. And right now, you're managing your health with a pretty serious and sophisticated stack of medications. You're on 5 milligrams of Crestor, that's a statin. You're on Repatha, and you're also taking Eliquis.
That is a very modern, very aggressive regimen for what doctors call secondary prevention, meaning your medical team is doing, basically everything possible to prevent a second event.
Yeah.
You're hitting cholesterol from two totally different angles with Crestor and Repatha, and you're managing the clotting risk with Eliquis.
It's a heavy-duty stack. But here's the curveball, and the real reason we're doing this dive. Your cardiologist recently suggested you add a supplement to the mix, Coenzyme Q10.
CoQ10, right.
Now, you told us you just assumed this was because you've been dealing with some muscle weakness, maybe a sore leg, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is, the classic complaint people have with statins.
Of course. And honestly, that is the assumption almost everyone makes. It's the standard narrative. My muscles hurt, I take a statin, so I need CoQ10 to fix it.
But, and this is the hook for today's entire deep dive, what if the thing you think this supplement is for, the muscle relief, is actually the area with the least scientific backing?
Right.
And what if the benefits you probably haven't even considered, like heart failure and actual measurable longevity, are where the data is surprisingly, almost shockingly strong?
It's the ultimate irony of this supplement. It really is. The popular reason for taking it is shaky at best, but the hidden benefits, the ones that keep you out of the hospital and, frankly, keep you alive, that's where the research gets incredibly compelling.
Okay, let's unpack this. But before we get into the heavy lifting of the studies, we have to do our standard disclaimer.
Always.
We are analyzing research literature here. We are not doctors. This is not medical advice. Elton, you've got a cardiologist for that, and you should absolutely listen to them. We're just here to help you understand the why behind what's on that prescription pad.
Precisely. Our mission today is to look at the real population studies, figure out which form of the supplement actually works, because the marketing in that aisle is an absolute minefield. And then at the end, we will tackle that muscle symptom debate.
So let's start with the basics. What even is this stuff? You see it on the shelf next to vitamin C, but is it a vitamin?
Not technically, no. Your body can actually make it on its own. Coenzyme Q10 is a fat-soluble substance that's in, essentially every single cell in your body. It's like the spark plug for the mitochondria.
The powerhouse of the cell. I remember that from high school biology.
You got it. To turn the food you eat into energy, ATP is the technical term. You need CoQ10 to make that chemical transfer happen. Now think about the heart. It's the hardest working muscle in the body, right?
Never gets a day off.
Never. Beats 100,000 times a day. So it has this ravenous, nonstop appetite for energy.
So the heart is basically a high-performance engine just burning through this particular kind of fuel.
That's a great way to put it. The problem is CoQ10 levels decline with age. They also decline with disease. And, as we'll get to later, they decline with certain medications you happen to be taking.
So Elton is 71. His levels are naturally lower just from the calendar. Let's start where he asked us to, but with that twist. Let's talk about the heavy-hitting benefits first. Why would a cardiologist recommend this to a stroke survivor if it wasn't just for a sore leg?
If we just put the muscle pain on a shelf for a minute and look at what we call hard outcomes, and by that I mean things like survival, mortality, hospitalization.
That's stuff that really matters.
The stuff that really matters. Then we have to talk about a study called Q-Symbio.
Q-Symbio. Sounds like a secret agent movie. But I know in the nutrition world, this is a very big deal.
It's the gold standard reference in this field right now. This was a randomized, double-blind trial. And that's important because a lot of supplement studies are just, observational. They ask people what they ate, which is full of errors. This was rigorous science. They took 420 patients with moderate to severe chronic heart failure.
So these aren't just healthy 20-year-olds at the gym. These are people with already compromised hearts.
Correct. These are vulnerable patients. And the regimen, they didn't just give them a tiny dose. It was 100 milligrams 3 times a day.
300 milligrams total.
300 total every day for 2 years straight.
That's a serious commitment. So what happened? What did the data show?
Well, the results were, they were startling enough to make headlines. The study showed a 43% relative reduction in cardiovascular deaths compared to the placebo group.
Wait, hold on. Pause right there. 43%. 43. Usually in these studies, we're looking for single-digit improvements, and we
Yeah.
celebrate those. That number seems incredibly high.
It is a massive number, and, people were skeptical, but the data held up across multiple metrics. It wasn't just mortality, it also significantly reduced hospital stays for heart failure,
Okay.
and it improved something called the NYHA functional class.
Translate that for us. What's the NYHA class?
It's the New York Heart Association's scoring system. It's how doctors grade how much heart failure limits your life. Class I is I'm fine. Class 4 is I can't get out of bed without being short of breath.
I see.
The people taking CoQ10 actually moved down the scale. They could do more physically without getting winded compared to the placebo group.
So fewer deaths, less time in the hospital, and a better quality of life. That's the trifecta of what you'd want any drug to do, let alone a supplement.
It is. And this brings us to another study that fits Elton's profile even better. It's called the CoQ10 study.
CoQ10. Okay, why does this one fit better?
Because Q-Symbio was strictly heart failure patients. CoQ10 looked specifically at senior citizens living out in the community. The participants were aged 70 to 88. Elton is 71, so he's right in that demographic.
Okay, so this is his actual peer group. What was the intervention here? Was it the same?
A little different. This was a combination therapy. They gave them CoQ10 200 milligrams a day, but they also gave them selenium.
Selenium.
Oh.
The mineral. Why that combo?
The theory is that there's a metabolic synergy there. Selenium helps the enzymes that fight oxidative stress, but those enzymes need CoQ10 to function properly. It's like having a lock and a key. You need both.
Got it. So they topped up both tanks. What was the outcome?
A significant reduction in cardiovascular mortality. In the group that got the supplements, the death rate was 5.9%. In the placebo group, it was 12.6%.
So they basically cut the risk in half.
They did. But here's the kicker. This is the part that really blows my mind. They followed up with these people years later. 12 years after the study first started, the reduced risk of death was still there. It persisted in the group that had taken the supplements.
12 years later. How is that even possible if they stopped taking it?
The researchers think it's a legacy effect. They believe the supplements reduced oxidative stress and inflammation so much during the trial that it prevented fibrosis, that's scarring in the heart tissue. It basically slowed down the rusting and stiffening of the heart muscle.
That's incredible. So, Elton, if you're listening, when your cardiologist suggests CoQ10, the literature suggests they might not be thinking about your sore leg at all. They might be trying to keep you out of the hospital and extend your lifespan by protecting the actual structure of your heart.
Exactly. For a man of 71 with a history of stroke, the big win here is about longevity. It's structural support for the heart. It's playing the long game.
Okay, so the why is pretty clear. The potential benefits are just huge. Now we have to talk about the what. Because if Elton goes to the pharmacy, he's going to see two words that look almost identical but have very different price tags. Ubiquinone and ubiquinol.
Ah, yes. The great marketing war of the supplement aisle.
It really is.
Yeah.
You see ubiquinol with a big sticker that says active form or superior absorption, and it costs twice as much. Then you see ubiquinone, the original stuff. As a consumer, you think active must mean better. What does the science say?
It is a major, major point of confusion. And frankly, a lot of money is wasted here. Let's just break down the biochemistry. CoQ10 shifts back and forth between these two forms in your body all the time. It's a redox cycle.
Redox,
Reduction and oxidation. It's just passing electrons around. Even if you swallow ubiquinone, that's the oxidized form, about 90% of the CoQ10 in your blood ends up as ubiquinol, the reduced form anyway. Your body just converts it as needed.
So your body does the conversion for you. You don't need a lab to pre-convert it for you.
Generally, yes. But the most important question isn't biochemistry, it's outcome data. What did they actually use in those big successful studies we just talked about?
Right. That's the real test. What did they use in Q-Symbio? The one with the 43% reduction in death.
They used ubiquinone, the standard oxidized cheaper form.
You're kidding. The one that saved lives was the standard one.
Yes. Same with CoQ10. A big systematic review found that all the major successful trials, they used ubiquinone.
That's wild. So where does this ubiquinol hype come from? Is it just marketing?
Well, there's a theoretical basis. Because it's already reduced, it should, in theory, be easier to absorb, especially for older people. But the evidence gap is real. The studies on ubiquinol are often smaller or shorter, or they use huge doses without showing that same clear-cut reduction in mortality that we saw with ubiquinone.
I'm looking at a study here that actually compared bioavailability in the elderly, specifically. This was in people aged 65 to 74.
Yes, this is a crucial study for Elton. They compared standard ubiquinone capsules, the fancy ubiquinol capsules, and a water-soluble CoQ10 syrup.
And what was the verdict?
Well, the syrup actually had the best absorption, about 2.4 times higher. And this is the key for you in the pharmacy, the difference between the fancy ubiquinol capsules and the standard ubiquinone capsules was not statistically significant in this elderly population.
So for a 71-year-old, the expensive capsule wasn't absorbed any better, really, than the standard one.
According to this text, no, the redox status of the supplement in the pill just didn't seem to matter much because it all converts in the blood anyway.
So, Elton, if you're standing in that aisle, the form that has the actual mortality benefit data behind it, the one used in the big trials, is the standard ubiquinone.
Just make sure it's a quality brand. Since it's fat soluble, maybe take it with a meal that has some olive oil or avocado. But ubiquinone is perfectly evidence-based. You don't need to splurge.
All right, let's move on. We have to talk about Elton's stack. He's on 5 milligrams of Crestor, Repatha, and Eliquis. How does CoQ10 play in the sandbox?
This is where we need to be precise. Interactions matter. Let's start with Crestor, the statin. It is a biochemical fact that statins lower CoQ10 levels in your blood and muscle.
Okay, why? Is the drug attacking the CoQ10?
Not attacking it, but starving it. Statins work by blocking a pathway in your liver called the mevalonate pathway. Think of it like a factory assembly line. That line produces cholesterol.
And statins shut the line down.
Exactly. But here's the problem. That same assembly line is used to produce CoQ10. So you block the road to stop the cholesterol trucks, but you also accidentally stop the CoQ10 trucks.
Which explains why the doctor suggested the supplement to refill the tank. But Elton's also on Repatha. That's a PCSK9 inhibitor. That's the new heavy artillery for cholesterol. Does that do the same thing?
No, and this is a really critical distinction. Repatha is a monoclonal antibody. It works in a completely different way.
How so?
Your liver has these little receptors, like catcher's mitts, that grab LDL cholesterol out of your blood. There's a protein in your body called PCSK9 that destroys those mitts. Repatha just blocks that protein, so your liver keeps more mitts, catches more cholesterol, and clears the blood.
Does that mechanism mess with CoQ10 or cause muscle pain?
Generally, no. The data suggests PCSK9 inhibitors do not increase the risk of muscle-related side effects. They aren't blocking that mevalonate production line. So, Elton, if you're feeling muscle weakness, it's much less likely to be coming from the Repatha.
Good to know. Okay, last one. Eliquis. This is an anticoagulant. We always hear warnings about supplements and blood thinners.
We do, and usually those warnings are about warfarin or Coumadin. Warfarin is notoriously sensitive to vitamin K. And CoQ10 is chemically pretty similar to vitamin K.
So there's a potential clash.
There's a potential interaction. However, Eliquis apixaban works differently than warfarin. It's a direct oral anticoagulant, and it's generally less finicky. The source material notes that while CoQ10 hasn't been shown to really affect warfarin in some experiments, monitoring is still advised because of the potential to change clotting time.
So for Elton on Eliquis, what's the takeaway?
The takeaway is safety first. CoQ10 can interact with the clotting system. Since you're on a potent anticoagulant, this isn't something to just start on your own. You need to let your cardiologist know you're taking it so they can keep an eye on things just to be safe.
Right. So for the whole stack, it means the statin is definitely lowering your CoQ10. The Repatha is probably innocent on the muscle front. And the Eliquis just needs to be respected.
You've got it. It's a manageable puzzle, but you have to respect all the pieces.
Okay, now we have to pivot to the final topic, the elephant in the room. The muscle pain. The reason Elton thought he was prescribed CoQ10 in the first place.
And this brings us to what I'd call the muscle symptom myth.
Myth? That's a strong word. I mean, patients feel this pain is very real.
Oh, the pain can be real. But the data forces us to use that word for the solution. This is the great irony of CoQ10. It is most famous for fixing statin-induced muscle pain or myalgia. But when you look at high-quality science, this is where the evidence is weakest.
Walk us through the hypothesis first. I mean, it sounds logical, right?
It does. It sounds perfect on paper. Statins lower CoQ10. Low CoQ10 causes mitochondrial dysfunction. The cells run out of gas. Therefore, the muscles hurt. It's a beautiful, Logical chain.
But the reality.
The reality is that rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials have failed to show a consistent benefit.
Give us the number.
A big meta-analysis of 7 randomized controlled trials showed no significant benefit in improving muscle pain symptoms. None.
0.
Statistically, 0. In fact, there was one high-quality trial where they took patients with confirmed statin muscle pain. They gave half CoQ10 and half placebo.
And?
Marginally, more subjects reported pain with the CoQ10 than with the placebo.
Ouch. That's discouraging.
And another trial showed that even though the CoQ10 levels in the blood went way up, so we know the supplement was being absorbed, the muscle pain scores didn't change at all.
So why do so many people swear their muscles hurt on statins and stop hurting when they take CoQ10? Are they all just imagining it?
We have to talk about the nocebo effect. It's the evil twin of the placebo effect. If you expect a pill to cause pain, if you read about it online, you are much more likely to actually feel pain.
The mind is a powerful thing.
Immensely. In one study, they took people who swore statins gave them muscle pain, and they re-challenged them blindly, so they didn't know if they were getting the statin or a sugar pill. Only about 36% of those people actually developed symptoms again on the statin.
So for the majority, the pain might have just been a coincidence.
Or related to something else. Arthritis, age, a new exercise, or just that expectation of pain. But maybe not the drug itself.
So if the science says it doesn't really fix the pain, why would a doctor even suggest it?
Well, because it's so safe. We know you can take up to 1,200 milligrams a day with no adverse effects. So a doctor might see it as a can't hurt, might help option. If a patient feels better, even if it's the placebo effect, that helps them stay on their life-saving statin medication.
That makes sense. Compliance is everything. If a safe supplement makes you feel good enough to stay on your Crestor, it's a win for your heart no matter the mechanism.
Exactly. But for Elton, the key insight is this. Don't measure the success of this supplement by your leg pain. If your leg still aches in a month, that doesn't mean the CoQ10 isn't working. It might be quietly saving your heart tissue, even if your leg doesn't notice.
That's a profound shift in perspective. You're taking it for the engine, not the upholstery.
I love that analogy. It completely changes the game. It shifts the goalpost from immediate pain relief to long-term mortality reduction.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's summarize the key takeaways for Elton. We've covered a lot of ground.
Let's hit the big 3. Point 1. The real science supports CoQ10 for heart failure outcomes and longevity. That's the big prize. Much more than for muscle pain.
Point 2. You don't need to break the bank on that fancy ubiquinol.
Correct. The QSMBO study, the one with that 43% reduction in death, used standard ubiquinone. That form has the actual outcome data behind it.
And point 3. The medication stack.
Be mindful of the aliquots. Keep your doctor in the loop. And don't blame the Repatha for your muscle pain. It's likely innocent.
And finally, the muscle myth.
Yeah. Don't be discouraged if the aches and pains don't vanish. The best evidence suggests CoQ10 doesn't reliably fix statin myalgia, but it's doing very important work underground in your mitochondria.
Before we sign off, I have to ask, if the statins drop CoQ10 levels, but replacing the CoQ10 doesn't stop the pain, what is actually causing the pain?
And that is the provocative thought to leave you with, isn't it? It raises a really important question. If we're refilling the fuel tank, the CoQ10, and the car still runs rough, well, maybe we're looking at the wrong mechanism entirely. Perhaps statin-induced muscle pain isn't about the fuel supply at all. Maybe it's about the engine structure itself, changes in the muscle membrane, or some genetic susceptibility that a supplement just can't touch.
So we still have a lot to learn.
A lot to learn.
That is something to mull over. Eldon, we really hope this deep dive gives you the confidence to have a very informed conversation with your cardiologist. Ask about Q-Symbio and Kissel-10.
Absolutely. Knowledge is the best prescription.
Thanks for listening, Elton. And to everyone else, thanks for diving deep with us. Stay curious.